Imagine standing knee-deep in water that has not drained in 3 weeks. The mud beneath your boots is alive and hungry. The sky above the Somme offers nothing but a grey ceiling pressing the cold downward. This front was not built for you, and yet here you stand, a Sikh soldier from the Punjab, a Sepoy from Rajasthan, wearing a uniform designed for a warmer world, breathing air that smells of cordite and rot. Welcome to Fieldcraft Chronicles. Today we uncover how Indian soldiers of the British Indian Army reached 5,000 years back into their own heritage to build warmth, cook food, and survive the killing cold of the Somme. Into the mud, the world they inherited. The Indian Corps arrived on the Western Front in late 1914 to find a landscape already drowned. The Somme Valley barely drains in winter, and that year the rain was relentless. Men waded through trenches with water to their thighs, slept upright against walls, and watched the mud consume the duckboards beneath their feet. For British soldiers it was miserable. For men recruited from the warm plains and dry uplands of the subcontinent it was existential. Many had never experienced temperatures near freezing. The 47th Sikhs saw their strength collapse from 764 men to 385 in under 2 months. They were not all falling to bullets. The environment itself was killing them. The ancient answer. What every soldier already knew. The tool they reached for was not a modern one. The tandoor is a cylindrical clay oven with a 5,000-year history, traditionally sunk into the ground or built into the earth of a village courtyard. Women baked bread on its inner walls. Families gathered at its mouth for warmth. Its design had been refined not by engineers but by generations of lived experience, optimized for exactly this kind of challenge, producing intense, sustained heat from minimal fuel in a contained space with minimal visible smoke. That last quality was critical. Open fires in the trenches were forbidden. The glow of a flame or a rising column of smoke could pinpoint a position for enemy spotters within seconds. The sunken earthen tandoor, drawing air from below and containing combustion deep within clay walls, solved a problem that the British Army had not. Building it. Fieldcraft in the trench wall. Soldiers identified sheltered bays in rear-facing trench walls and, hollowed out a cylindrical niche by hand and entrenching tool, smoothing and compressing the clay-heavy Somme soil to improve heat retention. Fragments of fired brick, salvaged from ruined farmhouses, lined the inner walls. A narrow channel at the base created a draft from below, mimicking the traditional design. Fueled by wood from broken duckboards or charcoal scavenged from farmstead ruins, a well-built field tandoor radiated dry heat for hours after the fuel was spent, drying wet clothing, warming frozen hands, and keeping the cold out of bones that had been soaked through for days. Fire, bread, and the meaning of warmth. With flour from rations or local foraging, men baked roti directly on the oven walls. It puffed, charred at the edges, and emerged hot and familiar in under 2 minutes. The smell of fresh bread in a waterlogged dugout was not just food, it was memory, mourning, and really the continuity of life. Soldiers' letters collected by historian David Amissi return again and again to food as a lifeline of psychological endurance. The shared tandoor also replicated the communal social function it had always served in village life, pulling men together around warmth and routine when everything else had been stripped away. What the trench teaches the modern fieldcrafter. There is a direct line from the mud of the Somme to the principles of modern bushcraft, and it runs through clay. These soldiers succeeded not because they had more equipment, but because they had deeper knowledge. They understood thermal mass before they could name it. They understood that smoke means death. They understood that morale is not a soft consideration, but a hard, tactical variable. Master the principles, not just the products. The tandoor built into those trench walls was 5,000 years of human ingenuity applied to the worst the 20th century could produce, and it worked. If this episode reminded you that the most powerful survival tool is the knowledge carried inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Subscribe to Fieldcraft Chronicles for weekly deep dives into the forgotten fieldcraft and human endurance stories that history rarely tells. Share this episode with every history lover, bushcraft practitioner, and self-reliance thinker in your circle. The men of the Indian Corps stood in the mud and built fire from clay and memory. The least we can do is remember them. Subscribe, share, remember.